So how are people getting so heavy in debt, and how can they turn it around? For this and more on this, we're joined by Jeffrey Schwartz. He's the Executive Director at Consolidated Credit Counseling Services of Canada. Jeffrey, good to be with you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Let's talk first about your view of what's going on. Patty Levitt-Reid was just talking a little bit about it, that maybe the absolute number isn't too alarming, but that the trend and the direction and what if you lose your job makes it that much more worse.
Yeah, I think the trend is the big concern here. Just to give you some stats, I mean, we've seen triple-digit increases in the inquiries from our organization over the last year when we compared it January to January, just specifically in Alberta. And that's a huge difference. And that means people are struggling. They're worried about their employment, or they may already have that crisis where they've lost their job and now they don't know where to turn to.
So what is the best approach then?
Well, first off, whether they're in Alberta or anywhere else and they have the opportunity to fix their financial house, is understand what's going on. So do a budget, create a snapshot of what's coming in and what's going out, and look for opportunities to cut back and save. The idea here is that you want to really reduce your spending and wherever possible, and it's this discretionary spending in a lot of cases, or impulse spending that's got people into trouble. And then from there, set a goal on how you can get yourself out of debt. Now, this is all kind of simple stuff, but it's certainly not easy, especially if you've been spending, your behaviors are that you've been living at a certain lifestyle for many years. Now, all of a sudden, it comes to a grinding halt. Get some help, seek the help of a trusted financial advisor, a credit counselor, to help you get out of this situation.
Jeffrey, we're so focused on Alberta, but what else are you noticing across Canada?
Well, I think we're still seeing debt increasing even in some of the provinces that are doing better, and then people are continuing to spend, specifically in British Columbia and in Ontario. And we're still seeing savings rates not as high as they should be. So if there were to be a crisis somewhere else, my concern is that people don't have the savings put away so that if there is an emergency in life, they have to turn to debt to get out of those issues.
What's the right amount of savings to have to cover the potential loss of a job?
Well,
I forget how many months I think some people say 6 months, maybe 2 years is the better number.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it depends on your employment situation in your province, but we suggest people to have at least 3 to 6 months of savings put away so that in case life happens, or in case there's reduced employment or unemployment, that at least it gives you a bit of a buffer, some time, so that you can stay on your feet without taking on any debt.
In terms of the number that often gets talked about, 100% debt to income ratio that we talk about across Canada, a lot of people aren't as concerned about that number because they say that the asset value, or your asset of your home, has increased to such a degree that side of the balance sheet, your own personal balance sheet, has also increased, so that don't worry about the 160 debt to income level. You say what to those people?
Well, I would tend to agree in a lot of cases. I mean, that is one measure that we use. It's widely quoted, and the reasoning behind what you said is exactly true, especially because we've been on such a great ride with housing in Canada for, it seems like 20 years at this point. But so with that, people have their asset base increasing, and if in the case of an emergency, some people are dipping in, and even not so much as an emergency, they are dipping into that equity. But really, it doesn't change the fact that they need to get their financial house in order. They do need to have some rainy day savings, some liquid savings, so that in case life happens, they don't have to go further into debt to solve those issues. We need to be looking at how we're spending. I mean, our spending appears to be out of control. People are living beyond their means. They're living beyond their income.
Where do you
and that's
see that?
creating.
Where do you see that take place?
Oh, well, it's everywhere.
I agree, but I guess one of my questions would be, you take a look at these homes that people are buying. I mean, isn't that one of the first areas that people maybe overspend what they can afford? Yeah,
and that is a concern, because they are taking on more than they can chew, and they're forgetting that there's all sorts of increased expenses as a result of that purchase. So that kind of filters through the rest of their life. We're seeing it in replacing items that don't necessarily need to be replaced. We're seeing it in electronics. We're seeing it in consumer items. Where we see it now too, and it's fantastic for Canadians because they love new technology, is all these tap and go purchases, but we're taking away that physical element of pulling cash out of our wallet, and as a result we're increasing our spending, which is not necessarily a good thing, especially if we're living outside our means.
So you're saying that actually using cold hard cash, where you see it leave your wallet, is better than just the tapping and go.
Well, I think so, because it gives you that break. It gives you that time to reflect on the purchase to see whether it's something that you really want to do or whether it's something that you don't really need and you could apply it to some high interest rate credit card debt.
Interesting. Jeffrey, good to be with you today. Thank you very much.